Hey everyone, I want to show you what I am doing tonight. After a long day of working, I am finally getting around to canning my chicken broth. I made this chicken broth about 3 days ago. It's been sitting in my fridge because when you cook chicken broth, you want to put it in your fridge. That way the grease will harden on top, and then you can just skim it off and you won't have greasy chicken stock. So this is my water bath canner that I have. Is what I cooked the chicken stock in, and I am just ladling it into the jars. I don't know how many jars I need because I didn't go off of a specific recipe. Chicken stock is really easy to make. You just need chicken bones, celery, onions, put whatever you want to in it, and then pull out the bones, everything you added in there, and then just leave the broth. And then you'll warm it back up before you can it. You want to make sure you water bath your jars to kill off any germs, bacteria that could form in the jars. So I don't know if I'll have enough jars. That's what I have left. I have 5 jars left. So if I need more jars, I'll just go downstairs, get more jars, come up and just throw them in the hot water real quickly, and then I'll put more stock in them. This is the book. I do have the ball book, but I don't go off the recipes in this book. Only reason why I use this book is so I can make sure I get the right amount of time that I need to pressure can this chicken stock. So yeah, let me finish up and I'll show you the next step. Alright, so I got my jars filled. I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 jars. I got 10 jars out of this pot of chicken stock. I'm just going to put these 2 jars back downstairs because I don't need them. I have my vinegar, my paper towels. When you can, you want to use the vinegar on the paper towels to wipe around the rim to get anything sticky, that could keep the sealing process, to keep the lids from sealing on top of the jars. So you want to use vinegar and a paper towel. Just go around the rim really good, and then you just stick one of the lids on top of it, and then the rim. This here is a chicken stock recipe out of the Balls book. Like I said, I did not use it. I am going to be looking at this step right here. The pressure canning time and process. I can't remember the exact time, so I just want to be safe and look at the book because I don't want none of this to go to waste. So let me finish up, wiping the top of the jars, putting my lids on, and then, yeah. So let me show you. I just take my paper towel. I already have vinegar on it. Let me switch hands because I'm right-handed. So this is a jar. I just take my paper towel, wipe around it with the vinegar. Oh, where's my camera? There you are. Put the camera on the camera. I just wipe it with the vinegar that I have on the paper towel, wiping the outside of the jars, just in case of any stock got on the jars. And then I'm wiping the top of the jars. And I'll do that to every single one. And then when I'm done, I'll put the lids on the jar. Alright, so this came out of my knife block that I got for Christmas about 2-3 years ago. And I went to use it one day to get one of my rings out of the water, and I realized it was magnetic. So this is what I use to get my lids and rings out of the water. So this is my pressure canner directions. I keep this around because I cannot remember the exact process of the pressure canning, so I reflect back to this to make sure I do it the right way. This is a lot of beautiful broth, and I do not want it to go to waste. So I've been canning for 4 years, and I always go back to my directions. So I use my pressure canner directions to see how much water I need in there, and then I used a ball canning book for the time frame of how long I need to let it pressure can. So yeah, let's get this going. Alright, so my direction says that I need 3 quarts of hot water. So I just took the water that I used to clean my jars and my lids, and I just took it and measured it in my measuring cup, and I measured out 3 quarts, which I put into these bowls because I don't want to waste the water. So I'm going to dump the rest of this water out because I don't need it. And then we'll fill it back up with the water I put into the bowls. And then it says 2 tablespoons of vinegar. This keeps the white powdery mildew from forming on top of your jars when you go to pressure can them. Please be aware that if you put the lids on your jars, they are going to, some of them might pop, might sound like they popped, but it doesn't mean they have sealed. You have to bring this up to a certain temperature to burn off any bacteria that can form inside of the broth. And with it being hot, it's going to automatically make a sealing sound. But do not trust it. You still need to pressure can your jars. So now that I got my pressure canner and the water that I need inside of it and the vinegar, I am set to go and start pressure canning. So I'm going to look back at the ball canning book, and it says that I need to vent steam for 10 minutes, which means when I put the lid on to lock it, I will wait for the steam to come out of the top of it, and then I will let it steam for 10 minutes before I put the weighted gauge on. So I don't use a pressure gauge that you can visually see to make sure it's up to pressure. I have these that came with it, and these are the weights. In the book it says 10 pounds. So this gauge, or this weight here, is 15 pounds. Hold on, let me show you. Okay, so this is 5 pounds. Then you take the rings off, and each one of these rings are 5 pounds. So I need 10 pounds pressure, so I will add 1 ring, which will make my 10 pounds. And then it says that it needs to, after you put the pressure gauge on it, you have to let it come up, you have to let it pressure can for 25 minutes. Now, you don't start the timer until this starts rattling on top of the pressure canner. And when it starts rattling, like, steadily, then you start the timer. So yes, let me get it started. Alright, I got my lid on, and I have a gas stove, and I have my burner turned up to high so I can get a good steam coming out of here. Once you see this having a steady steam right here, you want it to come out for about 10 minutes. When you see this to steam, I usually set my timer on my stove for 10 minutes because it needs to steam for 10 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, I will put my gauge on top of it like this. And then I will wait for my gauge to start rattling evenly, and then I will set the timer for 25 minutes because that's what the book says I need to do. So yes, that is how I do it. I will show you when it starts steaming and stuff how I'll put this on and everything else. So yes. Oh, these jars here would not fit. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to do this batch I have in the pressure canner, and then I'm going to have to redo the water and the vinegar and pressure can these 3 jars. So unfortunately, I don't have a big enough pressure canner, or I don't have multiple pressure canners, which is okay because I don't have a lot of storage space to store big equipment like this because I live in the city. So I'll be okay doing pressure canning it again. So yeah, so this is a steady steam that you see. So I'm going to let it steam for I'm setting my timer. Gonna let it steam for 9 minutes. Because that's what the book says. It says vent steam for 10 minutes. I'm going to do 9 minutes because I kind of didn't hear it steaming at first because I was doing my schoolwork. I work full-time and I go to school full-time. So, yes. I will let it go for 9 minutes, and then when the timer goes off, it's right here, it says vent steam. And then you'll put the weighted gauge on and bring it to pressure, and then I'll show you what it'll look like when I start the other timer. So yeah, so as you can see, it's steaming. Alright, my timer went off and I put the pressure gauge on top, and I'm going to wait for it to get a steady movement on it, and then I'll set my timer for 25 minutes because the book says 25 minutes for quart jars. So yeah, it's just sit around and wait. So this is what you want to see. You want to make sure it's a steady movement. So when you're for sure when I mean steady, it's just continuously moving. I'm going to set my stove again for 25 minutes, like the book said, and I am going to let this pressure can for 25 minutes. Now I am going to, once it gets a good steam, you want to reduce the heat down a little bit. Not much because you don't want to lose the pressure, but you want to reduce it down a little bit. I know a lot of people might say they don't trust doing it this way, but you got to think back in our ancestor days, they didn't have the gauges and stuff that they do today. So I do trust this method as long as I'm following the directions in the book and the directions of my pressure canner. I trust this. So it will do this for, got 24 minutes left on my clock. Now when it beeps, you will cut the stove off. Do not take this pressure gauge off because the pressure will lower really quickly and then your jars inside will break. So in the directions, it tells you that turn off heat, cool canner. You can see. Turn off heat, cool canner to 0 pressure. After 5 minutes, remove the lid. Okay, so what that means is turn it off. See this thing back here? As long as it's still up, you do not need to remove this lid. So to be on the safe side, what I do is I'll cut the burner off. When this goes down, I will remove this, and then I'll wait about 5 minutes before I take the lid off, just to be on the safe side. That's just what I do. I've been doing this for a while, and that's the way I feel safe about doing pressure canning. So I will show you the final product. Alright, I just pulled these out of the pressure canner. And now I'm putting my last batch into the pressure canner, and I'm going to do the same steps. I already remeasured my water and added my vinegar. I'm going to do the same steps. I'm going to put the lid on and let the steam come up and let it steam for 10 minutes, and then put my pressure gauge back on it. And then 10 minutes, and when it starts rattling, I'll do 25 minutes. Same process that I did for the first ones. And you can already hear the jars popping, which sounds amazing. I don't know if I'll get another one popping or not. And I was hoping I'd get one to pop. That's the best sound in the world, is listening to all of them pop. So yeah, let me get this going. Alright, so I finished my chicken broth, as you can see. Beautiful. I do regret not straining it again. So usually when I make chicken broth, my first step is to put it in the fridge to cool, so the grease on top of it will harden, and I can just spoon it off because I don't like really greasy chicken broth or turkey broth. And then before I can it, or before I put it back on the stove to warm up, I usually strain it again through a cheesecloth to make sure I get all the fine particles. Like, see down here? Let me see that. That's probably like bones and stuff like that I should have strained out. I usually strain it again, like I said. It's not going to hurt the broth having that in there. It's just going to make it more richer. It's just going to suck because if I go to use this for an ingredient or something I'm cooking, I'm going to have to strain it. So it's going to add another step, which is fine. But I'm still amazed at how beautiful this is. All right, so I'm going to show you when you get done canning, you want to store these with the lid off. Now, I went through, and as you can tell, they've all sealed. Well, this one, so they're all sealed. This one here, so you're going to take the ring off. The rings give it a false seal on the jars. So if you leave the ring on and you think it's sealed, the ring could be holding it in place to where it gives it a false seal. So if you take that off, like I do, I usually grab the jar by the lid. When I can, I don't grab it here when I take the ring off. I grab the lid. Like, I grab literally just the lid and I hold it. And that is one of the best tests I can do when I can. Because with me just holding the lid and the jar is not coming apart from the lid, then I know it has sealed up. So let's go through these jars and see if any of them see how many did seal and see how many false sealed. So yeah, hold on. So I have taken the rings off of all my jars and they have all sealed. They passed my test where I hold just the lid. Like, you just grab the edge of the lids and you just hold it up. And they all pass. So I will put this on my shelf down there with my turkey broth that I have canned. And so for the next 2 weeks, I'll just go downstairs here and there, touch the lids, make sure they're still sealed. That way, if it's not sealed, I can get rid of it. But yeah, that is 6, 7, 8, 9, that's 10. 10 quart jars. Look how beautiful that is. All right. Thank you for tagging along with me while I showed you how I do my method of canning chicken broth. I hope next time you feel confident and excited about being able to preserve your own chicken stock. So yeah, have a good afternoon.